Helpful for life.
Ah, the produce section. The only place you can smile and say nice melons without getting slapped. Do you know that eggplants and peaches are more than just emojis with sexual undertones? This is actual produce you can buy and eat. You may feel intimidated the first time you go into a produce section, but don't. As long as you use your senses, you'll be fine. We're not gonna go into specifics because that's something that a quick internet search will help you out with, but we will give you some general tips so you can know what you're doing in the produce section. First off, the good news is that by the time it gets to the store, produce has already been inspected one, if not multiple times. This helps minimize the amount of rotten food that you may get, but there's still a skill in being able to pick the best produce in the bunch. We said it earlier and we'll say it again. Produce that does not look perfect is still edible and can still be delicious. So don't be afraid of it. And as a reminder, go to ethnic stores. They have very inexpensive produce that may be a little uglier. Buy what is in season. It's gonna taste the best, and oftentimes it's gonna cost the least compared to other produce that's out of season. So you can see it in the ads, you can see it what's prominently featured in the stores, and you can also go to seasonalfoodguide.org to see what is in season, where you are for various parts of the year. Let me give you a couple of tips about produce that you may see prepackaged, either in a bag or maybe in some type of plastic or some kind of container. This type of produce is perfectly good to get. It's similar to the loose produce, it's just they put it in a container and sell it to you at a lower cost usually. There's two main downsides when buying prepackaged produce. The first one is that you can't individually pick out each individual piece of produce. So let's say you're getting a sack of potatoes. You can't necessarily pick every single individual potato, but that's okay. You can give it kind of a once over, make sure none of them look bad. The other downside of prepackaged produce is that you may end up buying more than you would use before it goes bad. So don't go buying that 20-pound bag of potatoes unless you're gonna have a potato fest. So to evaluate your produce before buying, you're gonna use 4 out of your 5 senses. The one you're probably not gonna use is taste, unless you're in a farmer's market or somewhere where they encourage that kind of thing.
Although all stores may let you sample if you ask nicely.
So first, look over the produce. Keep an eye out for any holes, any gashes, any major discoloration, or any major disformities. Do those greens look crisp or are they wilted? Feel the produce. Does the outside feel rough or smooth? Are there any squishy spots? Is it too firm or too soft? Does it feel light or heavy for its size? Smell the produce. Is it sour or stinky? Unless it's a certain kind of produce that's supposed to do that, you should probably stay away. Is it overly sweet? This is a sign for some fruit that it's already too ripe. Hear the produce. There's even some produce you can tell if it's good or not by knocking on it. When it comes to specific, use the good old internets. Just type in, how do I pick a good apple? Or how do I find a good apple in the produce section? Something along those lines will bring up all kinds of tips. Now, there are some common misconceptions out there, but don't worry about it. Worst case is that you're gonna end up with some produce that is slightly not as good as the produce next to it. That's not really that big of a deal. Also, don't be afraid to ask for help. If you're at the farmer's market, there's a chance you could ask the farmer himself or herself. If you're in the produce section, ask the person who's stocking the produce. They probably know a thing or two and they could be very helpful. And so you don't leave without anything specific, check out this infographic from Real Simple that shows produce from A to Z. Well, if you like this section, make sure you thank our producer. Sorry about that.